Thanks for joining us on Good Teams Win Great Teams cover. We're here for our NFL Picks and Preview Week 3 episode. 3 weeks in already. We are flying through the season. Joined as always by Joe and Byron as we're going to break down all the matchups, share our picks and best bets for the week ahead. Gentlemen, how are you doing? Welcome to Week 3.
Great, cheers. Yeah, looking forward to it. See how many players make it through the week. Seems to be the theme of the season so far.
A true survivor pool.
Look forward to this week. You know, it's like you said, it's flying by. It's I feel like week 3 could be the one where I start separating some teams out where we're finally going to figure out, is this a good team or have they just had 2 rancid first 2 weeks? Because I think if you go, plenty of teams are 0-2 what we expected to do well this year, and not started. So I think it's crunch time, maybe a bit strong, but some of these teams need to start picking up these wins if they're going to contend.
Some of these matchups, especially that we'll get into, but we've got a couple. There's a couple of maybe 2 teams that are 0-2 that maybe we're expected to at least pick up one win. That could, one of them is going to go 0-3, and that could kind of be the season off the rails completely. So real interesting week. Maybe not as exciting as last week, but certainly still intriguing. We had a big overs week in the NFL last week, in week 2. After week 1 was the unders, week 2 was the overs. So it'll be interesting to see how week 3 shakes out. But before we get into it, as always, go and follow us. If you go follow us on Spotify, Good Teams and Great Teams cover to be notified of new episodes. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, X at GTW_GTC to keep up to date with what we're doing in all our content. I think before we get into it, we've got a bit of good news that we've had today. I think I should share. Do you think, chaps?
I think go ahead, yeah.
I think we should. So we are very pleased to announce a little working partnership with Fantasy Gameday app. So the guys are making a UK-based daily fantasy app and game which looks brilliant. I've had a look at it. I've put a team in for this week, and the guys have started in 2023 looking to build it, and it's a fantastic, I think, opportunity for something maybe we don't over here in the UK have as much access to as they do in the US. So DraftKings is huge. There's probably some others. For FanDuel, another one.
Another one that gets a lot of hype over here at the minute is Underdog, and they don't do anything in the UK, and it seems to be a real bone of contention. So I think this could be a nice little fill that gap, certainly.
Yeah, so we sat down and a chat, and we've come to an agreement to have a bit of a partnership with Good Teams and Great Teams covering the Fantasy Gameday app. So just to tell you a little bit more about the Fantasy Gameday app, so it's the UK's first NFL daily fantasy app exclusively for fans in the UK. Join a game and build a lineup of your favourite NFL stars within the budget. Enter up to 5 lineups to improve your chances of winning a cash prize. The top 20% of entries win, and the higher you finish, the higher your prize tier. It's finally here, exclusively available in the UK. Available to download now from wherever you download your apps from, the App Store, Google Play Store, wherever. You must be 18 years old or over to enter. Please gamble responsibly. You'll hear us talk a lot more about the Fantasy Gameday app over the next few weeks, and we'll talk about it, give maybe some tips on what we're liking from a player perspective. But it should be a real good one to get into, and fits with us nicely at Good Teams and Great Teams cover. Cool. Did we nail the ad read?
Smashed it, I think, yeah. And the app looks real good, to be fair. Like, it was real good meeting with the guy today as well. And I like the thing, like, you enter max 5 teams. It's not a thing where you need to worry about, because that's one thing that with DraftKings and Underdog and FanDuel, I kind of get intimidated by the big competitions where it's like the millionaire every week, and you can max enter 150 teams at $20 a pop. Like, I can't spend $3,000 on entries, so I play a lot of the single entry pools tournaments because I find your chances of winning are obviously a lot better. And in this, you can max enter 5 times. Very fun. You're not going to end up with blowing $3,000 trying to max win a tournament. I think it's a real good system.
Yeah, good stuff. You're great to sit down with Gurmeet today, and shout out to the other guys over there at Fantasy Gameday. Cool. Shall we get into it then?
Yeah, why not?
Let's get into it. So we'll have a run through. We've got 5 games that we've picked. Again, sorry if we don't talk about your team in too much detail this week. You will have your turn at some point, I'm sure. Or just do good. If you do good, we'll talk about you. That's kind of how this works. Or if you cover spreads, we'll talk about you. So, apart from Sean McVay can go fuck himself. Let's start with I'm still a little bit sore about that.
Just a little.
Let's start with the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions in what could be a fun early game. The Falcons are 3-point underdogs. Over-under is 46. Atlanta started off 2-0, so a surprise 2-0 team? Or maybe we're not giving them the credit they deserve?
I think they kind of have been what I expected them to be. Like, again, I think if they're playing Lambeau Field against the Packers with a fully healthy Packers team, I'd pick the Packers to win that game. Picked the Falcons last week because that wasn't the case. I always thought they'd have too much for the Panthers, especially in Bryce Young's first game. I think they're just going to be one of those competent teams all season until Desmond Ridder has to do too much, and then things might get away. But I think this is kind of who they are. They'll win the games that they should win against underpowered teams or injured teams. But against better teams, it might be a bit of a rougher go for them.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? Don't try and put the game on Desmond Ridder and don't make him win you a game. He did look a little bit better last week. Week 1, it was just a bit of a crazy start for him, but 4 for 4 for no yards and a touchdown is how he started week 1. And a catch for -6 yards. So yeah, he did seem to settle down. I think this has got the makings of a fun one. I think obviously the Lions Seahawks last week was a bit of a shootout, really. Obviously, an overtime game. Joe, what do you think? I think that line's a little bit low at 46. I don't know. I just got a feeling that the over. It just feels like an over game.
Yeah, because it's not like the Lions' defense did too much against the Seahawks, and I think with Atlanta getting Drake London more involved as well, and hopefully getting everyone always hopes to get Pitts involved, but it might never happen. Getting them getting them players more involved. Like I said, really look a bit better, so they're not just going to constantly run. But that is their main aim, is to just run down the throats of Detroit. And like I said, I think their defense was amazing. Detroit getting a few injuries, which is not always good, especially on the offensive line, which is their coming into the season. It was probably the top 2 offensive line, and Jared Goff needs a great offensive line to be the kind of player he was last year. So, but I still think, I think the Lions are still going to score points just with the skill players they've got. I'm curious, obviously, it's Bijan versus Gibbs this week. So the battle of the high running back drafts. I'm wondering if Gibbs is going to get more involved with Montgomery's injuries, which he was actually looking pretty good, Montgomery, which I was surprised at. So I'm curious if they're actually going to get Gibbs involved.
Is this the week they unleash him, do we think? Because I think he's been kept I don't think he's had more than 15 touches in a game yet, has he? 9 touches week 1, 14, I think it was 14 touches last week. Is this the week they unleash Jahmyr Gibbs on the NFL and on the Atlanta Falcons?
It'll be interesting because I don't know if, we touched on it last week as well, like, how are they going to use him? I think it's maybe not as important as how many touches do they give him, but like, do you want to be running him up, the middle? I think that's probably going to be Craig Reynolds' role. I think that's going to be a direct replacement for Montgomery. And just hopefully there's a less of a Montgomery/Reynolds heavy usage and more of it does go to Gibbs. But I think they're going to have to try and get him in space rather than using him as a between the tackles runner, especially considering, Joe touched on the injuries there. The center, Frank Ragnar's injured, Vitai's injured, Decker's injured. None of them are practicing as of today. Rough road to tell for the Lions, I think, and I think it might be a case of Reynolds pounds up the gut and you try and. I mean, Ben Johnson's a really good offensive coordinator. He got praise all last year. Had a good game against Kansas City. I think it needs to be their top priority. Really, is how do we get Gibbs scheme touches that are, going to be highly efficient touches.
And it's crazy when we see him versus Bijan because he's just taken the league by storm. It's just highlight after highlight, breaking ankles everywhere, and it was only a few picks difference. And there is you can see that massive difference, and I think that's why Gibbs was a big shock where they actually took him, just because you can see the quality, you can see the burst in there, but you just like Bijan has this thing where you can just tell he's going to be like top 3 running back for the next few years, because he just has that little bit extra, and players can't gain that. I don't feel. I think it's just like instinct, a lot of it. So I'm curious.
Dan Campbell is said after week 1. And I find sometimes Dan Campbell, I find it kind of a bit difficult to figure out if he's being tongue-in-cheek or if it's been legitimate. He's like, I wanted Jameer on the sideline so he could watch what a real NFL game looks like. It's like, for all the criticism, fantasy Twitter and people give Arthur Smith, he's not holding Bijan Robinson out so he can see what the game looks like. It's because he's got Tyler Algier, who's a very efficient running back also. There's no talking like, I want him to see what it's like. He knows what it's like. He's, like you say, he's a top 3 running back now.
Yeah, and Cordell Patterson's apparently fully training. He's not in the injury report this week, so it's a 3-headed monster. Imagine lining all 3 up. Just go for it.
I wouldn't be surprised if after found ways to get all 3 of them on the field, and they've already designated Patterson as a joker, haven't they? Or they did in preseason as a joker on the sort of depth chat sort of thing. So where you see Patterson line up out wide, and so I think what it just does is it's another weapon. You're talking there in Bijan, Algier, Patterson, London, Pitts. It might start opening up for Atlanta, and Joe's praying for that. It might start opening up for Atlanta, but
did you draft one of them, Joe? I'm guessing.
On another one, yeah. Just because I just felt like, Arthur Smith does well with tight ends. We did it at Tennessee anyway. I know he brought Johnny Smith over as well, but I think you mentioned in previous podcast, it wasn't really Pitts' fault last year. It was like the quarterback just couldn't even get like 10 yards, couldn't get the ball even like 5 yards, even if he had like humongous arms. But and it's a battle of like 2 teams who have, I think they've got the second and third longest non-playoff streak as well. I think the Jets is the longest. So it's 2 franchises who are desperate for some playoffs, and both teams have got a good chance, to be honest. But this is a big game for the Falcons, because if they can win this and go 3-0, and you beat the Lions and Packers, who I think when you look at their schedule, they're probably like 2 of the best 2 of the teams who are probably the best in their schedule and who have actually got decent offenses. So if they can win these 2 games, then you're like, house money really, where some of the games where they should win and if I don't think they're going to go 15-2, but if you can beat these good teams, then you've got house money. When if you just lose to a team like the Texans, for example, because you've already beat these.
Yeah. And with that division and like you say, that schedule,
if
they go 3-0 here, if they split with the Saints the rest of the season, they're making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, because they play the AFC South, they've got 2 games against the Bucs, they've got the Panthers to play again. They're not getting less than 8 wins. Yeah, all you need to do is beat the Saints at home and you get the playoffs, basically.
Yeah, I think the line I took on him was under 7. Was it under 8.5 wins? Maybe was that the line? I'm under on the Falcons wins, and that's not looking good. And it's not looking good to go 3-0. Just a shout out there, Beej. Obviously, you've got Bijan as your background there, and I'm guessing that's going to be the thumbnail for the episode when it goes up. Bijan over rushing yards over under the line 67.5. He went off for 100. Was it 120 last week? 119. I think I'm all over Robinson over 67.5 yards. I think. I mean, the Lions defense there, what were defensively, rushing defense, 86 yards a game at the minute. You think with how much Atlanta pound it, I think they're going at 170 yards, rushing yards a game. You think Bijan can get 68 yards against this Lions defense, right?
Yeah, especially how they didn't have the greatest game in the Seahawks, who I expect them to step up and actually, hold the Seahawks and managed to get some pressure on Gino, but they didn't manage it. So, and again, they've got injuries on that side of the ball. So it's, I can see it just pounding the ball. And Kenneth Walker had a decent game. I know he mostly got a few touchdowns from not too far out, but, Kenneth Walker can do it, then should be Bijan can.
So in our Fantasy Gameday lineup, the first week we're going to be entering, Bijan Robinson's going to be our captain. Just informing you now, guys. You pick a captain. Your captain is very similar to Fantasy Premier League. Your captain gets double points. We're going to take Bijan Robinson as our captain. For 5, he's going to cost you 5,000 of your 40,000 budget. Happy with Robinson as the captain, guys?
I was torn between him and Jefferson, so yeah, I think it's not like one of them is more or less likely to go off. But I think I always feel like running backs just kind of have that higher, like, super ceiling. Mm-hmm. Receivers definitely can hit it. It's not like one can and can't. But like, if I had to pick an elite running back or an elite receiver to hit like a 40-point week, I'd pick the running back. And just on the note of like the Falcons rushing, I found it so encouraging last week. We did touch on it a little. But even if they get behind, they're still going to rush. They're 24-12 down, I think 24-10, maybe 24-12, I think, to Green Bay. And they didn't stop running the ball. They know what their skill is. Whereas quite often you see teams, panic a little bit. And it's like, well, we've got to throw the ball now. And Desmond Ridder throws an interception. It's game over. Stick to what you can do. And a 12-point lead suddenly, disappears. You don't have to, sling the ball out to, give up on what you're good at. And I think one thing Arthur Smith is he's confident within himself. And he knows what he's good at. He knows what his team's good at. I'm not saying the Falcons are going to win a Super Bowl or anything like that, but he's good with his philosophy and he sticks to it, which I think is a real good trait for them.
Yeah, I think I was worried for them earlier on in the season. Well, pre-season, probably why I took the underwins on. If they got down in games, they wouldn't be able to win them with Desmond Ridder. They wouldn't be able to come back at all. If they got 2 scores down in a game, well, they've shown us once they can do it. Whether they can do that consistently, I don't know. I mean, obviously the way you're designing is to not go down 2 scores in NFL games, but and your offense isn't geared towards that. But it'll be interesting to see if they can, if there's an opportunity to do that. For our picks, we've got we split. I flip-flopped. I went for the Lions initially. I flipped back to the Falcons. I'll be a Falcons believer. I've gone for Falcons +3. So's Byron. Joe's on the Lions. So we're split there. Interesting. Right, let's move across to our second game. This is the battle of the two. Well, this is probably the big battle of the two 0-2 teams. One's in serious trouble here. If whoever loses this game is in serious trouble. And that's why I might have a cheeky bet on a tie. We're going to have a tie. We always get an early season tie. Why not this game? So it's the Los Angeles Chargers, 1-point underdogs, traveling to Minnesota to play the Vikings. The over-under is 54. I've got a quick stat for you, gents, if that's okay, to kick this one off. So since the start of the last season, there have been 4 games where the over-under line closed at 54 or above. All 4 of those games went under. That's where I'm going to be leaning to on this one. It's too big a number, too early in the season. Give me the under on the Chargers Vikings. How do we see this one going? Chargers Vikings, such a big game for these two teams. This at this point in the season.
I think it is a big game for both teams, but I think it's a bigger game for the Chargers. I think the Vikings kind of leaned into it a bit in the offseason. They released players, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, traded players away, and I think they're kind of happy with a rebuild year as much as you can be. Kirk Cousins is out of contract next year. Would the Vikings hate having a top 10 pick to replace him? I don't think they would, really. I think Kevin O'Connell would be just fine with that. The Chargers are win now, and Brandon Staley's on a hot seat. I'm not going to say they can't go 0-3. Obviously, they can. They've gone 0-2. I think it's so much more important for them, though. If they go 0-3 here, they're not winning that division. No chance of winning that division against the Chiefs at 0-3. Even if the Chiefs are just 2-1, they're not catching that up. And then you're trying to get in the AFC wildcard race, and Cleveland obviously dinged up, New York are dinged up in the AFC, but it's still a very tough division conference to try and get in the wildcard race. They can't go 0-3 and have the season mean anything, I don't think.
Yeah, that's what my point was going to be. Is that I feel like it's bigger for the Chargers because, like you said, they were not one of the favourites, but they're one of the teams that people were talking up could win the Super Bowl. No one was saying, the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl. Most people weren't even getting them in the playoffs. So I think it's definitely big on the Chargers, obviously, going away. Even though the number's high, I was tempted going over just because I think both defenses just give up so many big plays. And I think both offenses, what they're probably good at is probably big plays as well when you look at it. So I was tempted. I stayed away because that number was just so high. But yeah, I'm expecting points. I think I was looking at the. I think Eckler's so important. Because he didn't practice again today, so if he's out this weekend, I think that's a big loss, especially with how the Vikings have been defending the rushing yards. I think they let what was it, 259 rushing yards to the Eagles last week, And that's what the Chargers did well in week 1. They rushed loads, but then the second week when Eckler was out, they hardly got any. And obviously that might be just because the Titans are a great run defense. So, yeah, if Eckler's playing, I think you've got more of a chance where you've got more. You could put Eckler in, or you could put Kelly in, where you've got to change up. While I think if Eckler is out, then they struggle a bit more, and I think it's gonna when that is such a weakness on the other team's defense. So I think it's gonna be points, just because I'm not a big fan of either defense, but you never know with these kind of games with how much pressure's on them.
So we're split across this game. Joe and Byron have both gone the Chargers. They've taken the point. Chargers +1, and a stat to back to support your side, your pick there. The Chargers. Justin Herbert 12-6 against the spread as an underdog. Pretty good. I've gone for the Vikings. I really like the Vikings in this one. I think they're unlucky not to beat Philadelphia. I think again, turnovers killed them, didn't they? Similar story week 1. I think they'll clean that up. I love Kirk Cousins in this spot. Let me tell you why. Kirk Cousins has gone 0-2 to start his career, to start a season 3 times in his career. On all 3. All right. On all 3 occasions in week 3, he's 3-0 against the spread. Give me Kirk Cousins. Give me the Vikings. Vikings -1.
So it's going to be a tie, and it's going to be Vikings -1.
Love the under.
He's outside both sides of his mouth again.
Well, kind of all 3, really.
And the tie is 60-1, if you're interested.
We're going to get a tie. Why not this game as a tie as well? Because they just both, particularly Chargers, who just constantly shoot themselves in the foot, in winning positions in games. So why not?
It's very both teams. I think both's going to doink a field goal. It feels like both. That's who the Vikings and the Chargers are. So over time, both kickers miss a field goal by doinking off the one of the posts.
I'm on the Vikings. And there was this stat as well that I didn't like after I'd convinced myself, I like the Vikings at -1. Kirk Cousins on extended rest, so 8 days or more between games, 9-20 against the spread.
And not many of them will have been in week 3 coming off 0-2. So
yeah, that's a pretty bad stat. It's not good for me.
It's not great.
It's not great, but I like the other one, so I'm just going to focus on that one and ignore.
Cut this.
We'll cut this. Just ignore this.
I did have a couple of little bets I like. I think this is 54 is a lot of points, but this, and I'm sure the other games that were 54, there was a real easy narrative to seeing how it goes over. I'm not backing the over, but you can easily see this going over, just because of the 2 teams. I'm not backing it, but when it's an over under spread of 54, there's obviously a real easy way to see it getting there because bad defenses, good offenses. The Chargers to get 3 or more touchdowns is +150, I believe, which I like as a bet. I think that's very plausible. And also Justin Jefferson to score in both halves is +1100.
Oh, nice. Cool.
I think Justin Jefferson's going to have his, breakfast, lunch and dinner. I don't think there's any slowing him down. Just who scores last, it might be the case of.
I think one real good piece to have a look at this one. So both of them are the same line. Herbert and Cousins, whether you want to take them as singles or doubles. The line for passing attempts is 37.5 for both of them. I can see them getting to 50 passing attempts each. Well, we'll just abandon the running game, both of them, and just trying to throw it about. But yeah, both of them 37.5. It's -115. I just like that. I think maybe Herbert especially.
Well, I think the Vikings, to be honest, just because how poor they've been running. I know they got Akers now, but yeah, they've been terrible.
See what they gave up for Akers?
Yeah. Did they swap the 7th?
The 2026 6th for Akers and a 2026 7th, but there's no trade of picks if he doesn't get 500 attempts. I believe was the number. It might have been 200 attempts actually. Now that I'm saying it out loud, but it could well be just not a trade essentially.
Mm-hmm. I think the Vikings needed to do something to, they've kind of addressed it early, haven't they? That Mattison isn't, he's not. Sorry.
Midison, I call it.
Yeah. He's not giving him what they thought they were going to get from him. Cam Akers, he's been frozen out at the Rams. Cam Akers obviously had the Achilles. Obviously, was a Superman from the Achilles injury, wasn't he? And he had a good run towards the back end of last season. And I thought But yeah,
I find it such a weird one. Like, I know we'll touch on the Rams later, but I mean, Akers plays for the Viking. McVay doesn't really seem to fall out with his players, and he's fell out twice with Cam Akers, and you never hear anything else about Cam Akers negatively. It seems like such an odd. I don't know what he did, or why McVay doesn't like him or rate him, or because it seems like it's a personal thing rather than it being a team. I know Akers was terrible week 1, but maybe it is purely team based. But it seems like there's more then. I just can't figure it.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings are rushing. I don't know, 2 weeks in, but 34. Less than 35 yards a game, rushing 2 weeks. So they need something. And whether we see much of Akers this week, probably next week, I imagine we'll see a lot more of him. But yeah, they need that rushing game. You need a shot in the arm. You need to give Kirk Cousins a bit of help, don't you? Cool. Good stuff. Our fantasy game play. Any recommendations for you, the fantasy game day player for this one? I've got one in mind I quite like.
Go ahead. I mean, Jefferson, you can't go wrong with, but he's going to be pricey.
He is going to be very, very pricey. So I'm going to go for another Minnesota wide receiver, Jordan Addison, for £4,400 of your £40,000 budget.
Jordan looking
Addison.
Really good, and the Vikings pass offense is very condensed.
Yeah, I would throw Josh Kelly out there as well if Eckler's not playing, like as a cheap running back if you want to get like Jefferson in there.
Yeah, so you could offset that with Kelly. If I can spell his name right, 3,600 of your budget. Interesting. Cool.
What's Eckler? A lot more, 6,000-ish.
Eckler's a lot more. I think he's 6,500.
Yeah, so obviously he's going to get less production, but if he's out, Kelly at 3,500 is almost not automatic, I think.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, that's Chargers Vikings tie. No. We'll move on to the New Orleans Saints. They're 2-point underdogs going out to Wisconsin to play the Packers. Over unders 42.5 on this one. Packers last week lost a close one to Atlanta, who we've already talked about. But Jordan Love still looked okay. So I think he's had a pretty decent start, really, hasn't it? I think. Not a massive yards, but certainly
been efficient.
6 touchdowns, I think he's thrown.
Yeah, I think Joe said the other day he's got the most passing touchdowns in the league so far.
Yeah, he's joint with 6. Yeah. He's looked good for a young quarterback, Like I think I said in the review, he's looking promising. I think that's all you want to see from Green Bay this year. I think they can make the playoffs, but they're not going to win the Super Bowl. So what you want to see is the youngsters step up, looking good. And this is another big test because I think probably the Saints is probably the best defense they've played. I think they have. It feels like the perfect time for the New Orleans defense. It feels like they haven't made many big additions. It feels like they've been together for a while now, and this is like their year to step up and be the team. And this game is like really interesting because I think for both teams it is a litmus test. The fact that I was curious how Love would do against New Orleans defense and vice versa, because I've actually been disappointed with Derek Carr. I didn't think he was going to be, top 10 quarterback, but I thought it'd be a little bit better than what they have been with winning close games where they're not scoring a lot of points. I was expecting, especially playing in New Orleans, it's a dome, isn't it? That he would be able to like chucking bombs down the field and going crazy. So I've actually been surprised how he's not been playing as well as I expected. So curious how he will play at Lambeau because apparently he's not great when it's outdoors.
Yeah, I think the Saints, the Monday night game against the Panthers was a real rancid game, wasn't it? We didn't really touch on much of it in the review. But yeah, they've done enough to get over the line in 2 games so far. That defense is really, really good. I think it's the 4th ranked defense so far after 2 games. Early for those sort of rankings, I know, but they are very, very strong. They've only given up 160 yards passing per game so far, which is pretty much where Jordan Love's been, to be fair, so far for the Packers. But yeah, real intriguing one. And yeah, I think where are we split on? Are we split on this one? Because I think I've got the Saints. Joe, you've got the Saints. I like the Saints to go into Green Bay and win this one.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I think the Saints are actually going to win this. Just again with the Green Bay's injuries. I know they're possibly getting Aaron Jones back and Watson back, but with David Bakhtiari, not sure, and obviously the left guard as well. Jenkins is injured, so it's not a good sign when you've got a young team if the offensive line's starting to get injured, especially against this New Orleans front. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Yeah, and I'm sure I'll chat about that later on when we're talking about certain picks. But
yes, okay, good stuff. How do we like as our fantasy game day player in this one? A lot of injuries, and we've got Jones, Jamal Williams is likely injured, I think, for this one.
I think there's two relatively cheap options, and it's two that I like as bets as well. Anytime touchdown guys. So Kendre Miller is plus 200 anytime touchdown. Jamal Williams is probably going to be out if he's not definitely out. Obviously, Kamara comes back next week. Tony Jones is a body. He's not a good running back. Taysom Hill's going to get work, but I think they're going to want to feature Kendre Miller. This is going to be his debut. And they don't have much else going for them in the running game. So I think Taysom Hill might sneak a couple of touchdowns because Taysom Hill hasn't been naughty yet this season. But I'd back Kendre Miller. I think he's a great bet too, plus 200. And I'm sure it's not a huge price in you.
Yeah. In the Fantasy Game Day app, he's 3,200. So if you're 40,000 budget.
Josh Kelly.
So, yeah. Absolutely. I love Taysom. We saw Taysom Hill got involved a bit more, didn't he, on Monday night in the game? So I think the balance of kind of getting him involved, he's kind of a bit of a lightning rod, isn't he? Where if you're starting to struggle, you can just kind of pick up a couple of quick first downs with him, and
and I think similar to the Falcons, like if they win this, they're 3-0.
Yeah.
And again, they've got not a great schedule. I think the next three are. They've got Buccaneers, Patriots, and Texans. So they could easily be 6-0, and if they get 6-0, they're more or less either going to win the division or get one of them wild card, because I think the rest of the NFC divisions are actually stronger than we expected. There's a few teams being undefeated and looking better, like the Rams and the Washington Commanders and things like that. So I think if they can go 3-0, same as the Falcons, you've got a leg up already, and it's a great start to the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of the Saints had obviously Tennessee and then the Panthers on Monday night. Yeah, they've kind of, this is probably going to be their toughest test so far, I think, because the Titans did not play well week one. So, yeah, interesting if they can go into Lambeau and get a good road win. Cool, good stuff.
I'm obviously backing the Packers to win it. I'm the odd one out. No huge reasons, really. I think Aaron Jones to come back is important. I just kind of think, kind of what we've been saying, I think it's two, medium-ish teams. I'm just going to go with home advantage. It's Packers' home debut for the season, their first home game. They've been on the road twice. That's kind of my reason for going with the Packers. It's not a huge, strong call. But my other bet that I liked, and I think a good shout for the fantasy game, is Jaden Reed, plus 320 for anytime touchdown. He got 2 last week. I think he's a really, really good receiver. I think they took him in the second round from Michigan. No, doesn't sound like Christian Watson's going to make it. He's still not practicing yet, and at this point, no point rushing anyone back from a hamstring. The last thing you want to do as a receiver. So I think he's going to be... I don't rate Romeo Doubs as a difference maker. I think Jaden Reed, he gets open. They're going to use him in the slot. And I think as good a bet as anybody is getting in the end zone. I think plus 320 is a real good price for someone who's got 2 last week.
3,000 in the Fantasy Game Day app. And also, we don't want to upset any Michigan State followers that may listen to this, but anyone in East Lansing, it was Michigan State that he was drafted from, not Michigan.
Yeah, I'm not a college expert in any way, so the fact I got it in the right state, I'm happy with.
You can be as close, but also a million miles away at the same time, really, so.
Yeah, it's like going Man U, Man City, I guess, right? You got the city right, but the what? Except that's close.
Yeah, I'll stop poison the city. Right, let's move on with that one. I'm not apologising to any Man City fans. That's not happening. Patriots, Jets, AFC East matchup. Patriots, the 2.5-point favourites going into MetLife, the Meadowlands, to play the Jets. Over/unders 37. It's very, very low. Poor Zach Wilson has had to go up, obviously in relief of Aaron Rodgers, go up against Bills, real strong defense. That Cowboys defense, and now he gets to play Bill Belichick and that Patriots defense. Is it just as straightforward as that defense is going to murder Zach Wilson, or do we see Zach Wilson with a bit of better performance after he's settled in a couple of games?
Not really. Go on, Byron, you go first.
I don't think it's that cut and dry. I don't think Zach Wilson is going to be good. But to me, it's not just as crystal clear as Zach Wilson versus Bill Belichick. Although I'd love to see that fight. But
I think it's the reason why Bill Belichick is single now. Zach Wilson.
They've both been out milf hunting. No, the Jets, over 21 players are going to be starting. It's a real good unit. Defense is one of the best in the NFL. The running game's really good. Garrett Wilson's really good. Zach Wilson has issues, lots of them. He's not a good player. But the Patriots on the other side, they haven't covered yet the spread in either game. The Jets did beat Buffalo with Zach Wilson for all but 4 snaps of the game. This is in MetLife. I don't know. I kind of struggle with the Zach Wilson's going to get his pants pulled down, therefore it's an automatic loss. I think the Jets are just going to try and run the crap out of the ball, keep the game close. I don't see the Patriots going, 12, 14 points ahead at any point. I think they're going to struggle to put points on New York as well. I trust the New York running game a little more than New England's. I just think it's a real close game. I think it's, for all the laughing at Zach Wilson, and it's absolutely fair, I'm doing it myself, I don't think he's going to decide these kind of games unless the Jets OC puts him in a real bad position and makes him, which isn't good for anybody, obviously.
So you guys watched the game last week against the Cowboys. Like, looking at the rushing, it feels like the Jets just went away from it. So, cause I've got Cook in my fantasy, and he got 1 fumble, and I think he ran like 2 or 3 times. I think Breece Hall only ran 4 times, was it?
Yeah.
So I was a bit shocked with that because I thought that's what would be their game plan, was to try and run it down. I know the Cowboys probably the best defense in NFL, but still, they would at least try that a bit more than just going away, because you like the alternative, you're not going to win with Zach Wilson. So I was shocked that didn't happen. So I'm curious how it goes again, because it feels like the Patriots have always won up on the Jets. I think they're 14. They haven't lost in the last 14.
14 straight wins the Patriots have over the Jets. They're 23-2 against the Jets since 2010.
Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick was a quarterback the last time the Jets beat them, with Decker catching a touchdown. So that's how long ago it was. So
Reed Decker. That's a name I've not heard for a while.
so I am curious, like, are they just going to go away from the run again? But just because of how they did that last week, or is it because with the Patriots also not going to be scoring many points, they're going to be able to stick with it more? Because it's not, like you said, I don't think the Patriots are going to blow them out and have a 14-point lead, and the Jets have to quickly change their tactics.
But it's not as if Dallas didn't get massively in front early in that game. It was only the second half that they pulled away. And I just think every time they were trying to rush, they were losing 2-3 yards. A run at one point. I think your fantasy points total combined for Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall last week, I think in our league, obviously it depends on your settings, but I think they total
ended up about 0.
I think it was 0.6 points. Yeah. I think Dalvin Cook got -0.3 and Breece Hall got 0.9 or something.
Well, the leading rusher last week was Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
And Zach Wilson, or Zach Wilson, as I was calling him, he's not a scramble. He's not Lamar Jackson in disguise.
Only 20 yards backwards.
It was just escaping. He got those couple. He got, I think, 2 big runs. Didn't he? Escaping the pressure when he didn't have Micah Parsons draped all over him.
Yeah.
But that 37 point it's still tempting. I think if it was 40, I would have definitely been chucking some money on it, because I don't think either team's getting more than 20 points. Just because, even when you look at the Patriots, I think their rushing's been, again, one of them teams you thought, they're just going to pound it with Stevenson all year, and they've just been terrible. I think they're one of the worst in the league. And if you put it up onto Mac Jones throwing it, especially with the cornerbacks the Jets have, I'm curious if it is going to be a heavy turnover, but 16-14 kind of game where it's whoever. It feels a bit like the Steelers-Browns one. Is it like, which defense is actually going to win it for them? Who's going to get the turnovers and get the points, rather than relying on both offenses to actually make that big of a difference?
Just think the Patriots can have a bit more of a balanced attack, and I don't know. Mac Jones seemed, especially in the first game, seemed to come to life a bit after the early mistakes. Sunday night football against the Dolphins didn't go very well. The scoreline probably flattered them a bit, didn't it? 24-17. But yeah, no, I just like the Patriots in this one. I think this is am I right in saying the last time they started 0-2 was before Brady? I think I might need to start checking.
No, it was 2001. So
2001.
Yeah, Brady's emergence. When they actually won the Super Bowl.
When they won the Super Bowl, so that was the last time started 0-2. I don't think they'll start. I don't think they'll start 0-3. And I like the 2.5. I think they'll cover the 2.5.
But I'll be curious because if the Jets win this, then they're 2-0 in the AFC East against, So if they manage to scrape this win out, being 2-1, still positives in that end. I know last week, but it feels like Dallas is going to do that to a lot of offenses this year. So you probably can just ride it off. And this feels like one of them games where if Jets stink again, and I know the Patriots go good, but if they stink again, you're like, oh, this is actually going to be a terrible year. But if they manage to pull this one out, actually sticking to what they're good at, sticking with the run and trying to, make Mac Jones make mistakes because, their rushing has been terrible. So it's a curious and interesting game.
Cool. I've no other stats for you, Joe. Nick Math, 14 straight Patriot win stats. We're split on this one as well. We've not agreed on one of these five, one of our preview games yet, have we? So me and Joe are on the Patriot. Just me and Joe versus you, Byron, and all that. Is that what's happened so far?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine with me. I can take it on my shoulders. Don't worry.
I'm definitely on you, Paul. I think 2 of the games you've read out my pick. I was like, I fallen for the other way. I did with the Detroit Atlanta. I was like, oh, did I go the Lions? Oh, yeah.
You even copying Paul's style now. Just pick everything.
Exactly.
Byron, no need for that. We're supposed to be friends. Right. Cool. Yeah, Byron's on the Jets. Cool. Any other bets to have apart from so the under looks tasty? I think probably what are the passing attack? I've not seen this.
Zach Wilson is 182.5, I believe, and Mac Jones
like
230. But it's not the touchdowns.
And then passing attempts because I feel like I like that one more than the yards. I feel like I've got a better read on that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I did have something a minute ago. Pass attempts. Zach Wilson 29.5, Mac Jones 32.5. I'd be taking the under on Mac Jones.
I feel like I like the unders on both.
I like the under on both, to be fair, but I definitely more for Mac Jones and Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I might have a passing attempts parlay. That might be my little fun bet for the week.
I'm wondering what the any time both defenses to get touchdown.
Well, that's what I was literally going.
There you go. Yeah.
Pats are plus 650, Jets are plus 850. I haven't seen what it is as a double though.
Mm-hmm.
But I think both are, the best pass catchers might be, Sauce Gardner or, New England cornerbacks. Christian Gonzalez. Yeah. It wouldn't be a huge surprise. So I quite like both of those as singles. Not 100% sure what it'd be as a double though.
Interesting. Cool, good stuff. Anything else? I don't want to pick a player from this game, to be honest.
Can you pick defenses or no?
No, you don't need to put defense in. Yeah,
probably no one then.
I think nobody from this game for me. Unanimous decision.
There's no punters, right?
No, exactly not. Cool. And then our last game that we're going to preview in depth for the week is Monday night, one of the Monday night football games. So we've got a double Monday night football again. I think we said this last week. I hate its concept. Stop doing it. Please don't have the games on at the same time anyway. I don't know if you're doing back to back. They used to do them back to back.
So, yeah, it used to be brutal.
Yeah, and it used to be a late night. So they typically had like a West Coast
Oakland
team in the second game. Yeah. Which, was fine. But I hate this. One starting an hour after the other.
I think they're doing like week 14 as well.
Yeah, stop it. Yeah. Stop it, ESPN. Rams, Bengals. Rams plus 2.5. I think that's already moved to plus 3.
Yep.
Bengals over under 43.5. We talked about the Chargers and Vikings before as 0-2 teams and this being a big game. Is it crisis in Cincinnati if the Bengals go 0-3?
Yes, no question. I think it's crisis if they win and Joe Burrow's hurt. I don't know if Joe Burrow's going to play. The betting markets don't have any kind of passing yardage things for the Bengals, so that implies they're not too sure. They don't want to put a mark out on Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow doesn't play, they don't want to put anything on team yards because that's going to differ a lot if it's Jake Browning versus Joe Burrow because everyone's going to smash the unders today and see what comes on Monday. But yeah, if Joe Burrow's out a few weeks, I think it's crisis for Cincinnati, win or lose, but lose especially. And, you know, you had them in the Super Bowl, Paul. I think I had them in the Super Bowl, and having the best record in football. Like, you know, and we weren't alone. These weren't like super bold calls. You know, the Bengals have been an incredible team since Joe Burrow got there, and it's gone to shit really early. So I think this is must win territory.
Yeah, I would say that the fixtures after the next 3 before the bye is not horrendous. So even if Burrow's playing to lose this, and I think they've got the Seahawks in there, but they've got 2 other games which they got the Titans and Cardinals. So, you know, if they get to 3-3 at the bye, if they go for a backup until the bye to get Burrow's fit all the way, yeah, it's still a long chance. I think he will play. I think what I've heard is. Like I've been to the Bengals camp. What I've seen online is they're more optimistic. They're not sure yet, especially with it being Monday. It worked out well that they're on Monday night with this injury, and it feels like Burrow's the kind of player who will play even if he's injured. But I think what the worry is that even when he played the first week and until he got injured at the end of the second game, they weren't looking like a great team. They weren't looking like the Bengals. So,
and it was really easy to write off because of the weather, but
yeah.
It doesn't mean that that's the only reason. Like, it was easy to say it in real time, but when you see them underperform again against the Ravens, you go, well, actually, was there more to look at in that Cleveland game of, you know, it wasn't just the rain, it was an underperformance.
And it seemed like things like you see the interception in the red zone. You never saw that. And you never saw like Chase getting outpicked. It feels like Chase is not what he was a year or two. Obviously, he can come back. He's I'm not saying that he's not going to be that player again, but it just feels like little tiny bits, which, especially in the first year when they were just bombing it down to Chase, it feels like that's not an option anymore. And I think the defense has been a lot worse than people expected as well. I think we've talked about, obviously, the players have lost at the back end, but I just expect like that coaching staff has done really well the last few years with not high quality players, or high star players, and it's just been a surprise that teams have been able to like run all over them. And yeah, it's a tricky one because I think, and on the flip side, Rams have been a lot better than I expected. I think Stafford's been, in the first 2 weeks, he's definitely been the top 10 quarterback, which people weren't sure with the injury, and a few players have stepped up with Cup being out. It's I think even if Burrow plays, it's going to be a tight game just because how both teams are playing. Even with Burrow's in.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I just think this is a big spot for the Bengals and what they do. I think if it was me and I was that Taylor, I'd probably sit Burrow. I would, and almost go, look, I'm not sitting for a couple of weeks and go, look, we're just gonna have to look, almost sack off the division and go, we're going to have to just fight for a wild card spot, and can we just put a run together? Because the risk is, I think my worry is if you play Burrow and he re-aggravates that injury seriously, the whole season's gone.
Yeah, fully agree.
Yeah. If they had a better backup, if you had, we talk about the Panthers have got Andy Dalton backing up who's going to play this week. If you had someone like that, I think it's a no-brainer. I think the issue is they don't have that backup quarterback that we know that's got any competence, and that's the bit that might make me think we're just going to play Burrow through it, and I think that might come to bite them in the ass.
And I think last year they did go 4-4 the first 8 games, and they still won the division and went through. So, if they can get to the bye 3-3, Burrow has a week off, maybe the injury's not as bad as people expected, then they can get to the playoffs and win it all. But it's just managing it. And yeah, I think like we've said, with calves, Rodgers had a calf injury over the summer, and I wonder if that affected like the Achilles because all the muscles are all connected. So I'll be wouldn't want to risk it and just wipe out your full season. I think if you lose this game, you can always come back with Burrows. But if you're losing for the season, it's see you later. And another AFC team scratch them out of the playoffs.
Bites the dust, some good advice from Dr. Joe there on the calf and Achilles, all being connected. Good stuff. Medical experts here at Good Teams and Great Teams cover as well. Not betting experts, but medical experts. Right, yo. The Rams, just a little bit more on the Rams state. Yeah, Stafford looks good. He's come back from the injury. We didn't know what to expect for the Rams. The Rams are going to be better than any of us maybe predicted at the start of the season. We have a potential new wide receiver superstar in Puka Nacua in the NFL. Just 25 receptions through 2 weeks. Brilliant.
Incredible.
Yeah, there's no line. There's no line on his, because I guess as it's Monday yet, but there's no line on receptions on Bet365 as of yet, but want to keep an eye out for sure. I'm sure it'll probably be high. Maybe fade it and go the under. I think he still might have a fair few receptions, but I think maybe they're going to try and start scheming him out a bit. Defenses would be smart too. And that's where I think maybe Tutu Atwell's a good one to have a look at as well. I think he's gone back-to-back 7 receptions across the 2 weeks. So, it's not that Stafford just likes Nacua. He quite likes Tutu Atwell as well. So, interesting one. Anyone for the Game Day Fantasy app, do you think, in this one?
Included?
Sorry?
Isn't it just Sunday games?
Oh, good question, actually. Yes, it might be, yes. My apologies.
But yeah, Tutu would be a good fit because, again, he's probably going to be, he will be cheaper than Nacua in any of these kind of games. And I think he'd be your best bet. Kyron Williams as well has looked really good through the first 2 weeks. He's kicked Cam Akers out of a job. And Kyron Williams is, he was pretty unheralded. Didn't look super great last year in his little bits and bobs. And, I didn't know him in college, but he was slow at the combine, and I didn't think he was going to be an NFL starting running back, so good for him.
Good stuff.
And just not bets for this game, but just as we're talking about Puka Nacua, you can still get plus 800 on him being Offensive Rookie of the Year. Probably going to filter out a little, but plus 800, this feels like a real nice bet at this point if you want to invest that for the rest of the season. And
I'm guessing that's Bijan, isn't it? That's why it's so high.
7.5, and Richardson's plus 225, and then it's Puka at third in the betting. Yeah, man, I wish we bet on Puka Nacua pre-week 1, though. Oh, goodness me, name your price, I think.
Yeah.
And the other bet that is not related to Puka Nacua or the Bengals directly, I think just the Ravens at plus 100 to win the division. It feels a little like you're maybe buying money, but you're waiting a long time to cash in. It's only plus 100. But kind of everything has gone right for the Ravens so far through 2 weeks. The Burrow's injured, Chubb's injured. Injuries. Well, their own injuries, yeah, but they're coping with them. The Steelers look defunct on offense. The Bengals might be losing Joe Burrow. The Browns have lost the heartbeat of their offense. Yeah. The Ravens continue on as they do.
Cool.
I won't be betting it. I just found it an interesting little money one is worth considering.
Cool. Good stuff. Again, we're split. Again, me and Joe. Is that all 5 of the games in the preview? Yeah, me and Joe are on the same side. And no, me and Byron are on the Falcons and Joe's on the Lions. 4 of the 5, me and Joe are on the same side. Me and Joe are on the Rams. It's just the uncertainty of Joe Burrow playing, and actually, I think the Rams are just better than we thought they were going to be preseason. So yeah, Byron, you've gone on the Bengals in a must-win spot for them, really.
Yeah, must-win home underdog. Not home underdog. Must-win home team. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm going to give them the benefit. If Burrow plays, I'll really like that price, but the price will probably change.
Yeah, the line will change. We'll see. Cool. Good stuff. Right, shall we go? How should we do it? Should we go over the rest of our picks first before we go over our FourFold challenge?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Excellent. Good stuff.
We're very in line this week, putting it all together.
Let's have a look then. So I've got some about this Thursday next. So everything tells me that obviously we're all on the Niners, and that's fine. Thursday night football. And we did a bit of a Thursday night football preview, and we just rate it off that I think the Niners will cover and smash it. I'm not going to back the Giants at plus 10. I'm not going to do that, but I'm not going to bet on the Niners.
I've got a few Niners bets if you want me to. Well, this isn't going out until tomorrow, so it's a bit pointless. Maybe put them on the social later.
Yeah, we'll put them on the socials later. We can still talk about them, but you can let people hear the method behind the madness, but just let me hit you with this. Okay. Daniel
Here's
Jones.
why the Giants are winning. Yeah, go on.
No, not winning. Might cover the spread. They're not winning the game. Daniel Jones on the road. He's 19-8 against the spread. Pretty good. Since Daniel Jones has come into the league, there's only one quarterback that's better on the road. 19-8 on the road against the spread, and you've got 10 points.
How good's he been on the road when the spread is 9.5 or more?
Well, all right. I mean, you don't need to. I've not got every stat. But just a quick one: just a pop quiz question? Who's the quarterback that's better? Who's the one quarterback that's been better on the road against the spread in that time?
Tannehill.
Ron, Joe.
Tannehill.
No, it's Jimmy G.
Oh, of course.
All he does is win.
All he does is win. Other one I like, and this is, again, it's not really one because, he scored a touchdown in 11 straight games, but CMC has got a touchdown in 11 straight games. He can tie a 49ers record tonight. Jerry Rice scored a touchdown in 12 straight games, so CMC can...
Oh, he didn't give us that as trivia.
Tie a record. Yeah, he failed once. He's 275, minus 275 anytime touchdown scorer, and plus 220 first touchdown scorer. That might be where your value is in CMC. Home teams, there you go. This is another one why I don't like it. Home teams on Thursday Night Football since 2020 are 20-33 against the spread. Only cover about 40%, less than 40% of the time. I'm not going to do it. I think the Niners will win. I've got a funny feeling.
It's a tough bet to make.
Yeah. I just got a funny feeling that they might take the foot off the gas and the Giants might backdoor cover it late on.
And also you're a little burned, right?
They might have a kicking field goal with being 12 down.
I can just see like a sneaky Giants backdoor cover or push. I can just see it, yeah.
Daniel Jones on the 1 yard line does a drop kick. Not even field goals now.
We need to see more drop kicks in the NFL.
I fully agree.
But we're all on the Niners. Sorry, Byron, what were your Niners bets? We'll put them up on the socials because, of course, this won't go out.
So
I'll probably get it out before the game, actually, so somebody might hear it.
So, they are all on the theme of I don't think the Giants are going to do very well. Safety to be scored plus 1,000 by any team. Could be the Niners, could be the Giants, probably be the Niners. Niners to win with a shutout in the first half is plus 750. Niners to win both halves is plus 115. And then Elijah Mitchell, anytime TD, plus 210. Elijah Mitchell, 2 or more TDs, plus 1,600. CMC on a short week. Please give him a rest and let him get all the way through the season. That's my entire thought process.
Thank you. Joe, have you got anything on? Obviously, you're, of course, going to back the Niners minus 10.
Yeah, I think I've got taking your advice, actually, Paul, which is a chain. I've got the Niners over 30.5 rushing attempts. Was minus 110.
Cool.
So I've just took some money on that because they've been over that both games, and I think they're just gonna. I think with a big lead, they're just gonna pound. I think they're gonna give it to Mitchell and just pound it, and possibly the third running back as well, and just do that all game.
Cool. Be a great watch, won't it? Mm-hmm. Excellent. Cool. Good stuff. Let's move on. We're all aligned again. This worries me. Denver plus 6.5 at the Dolphins. Pretty straightforward. The Broncos are terrible. The Dolphins have looked good. Anything else to add on that?
I could add more superlatives to Denver, but let's not.
Yeah.
They had some offense last week, though.
But no defense. Against a team who's probably one of the best offenses in the league. That's what I'm just thinking. And it's in Miami as well.
Yes. Yeah. It's in Miami. Cool. Good stuff. Patriots, Jets, we've discussed. Me and Joe on the Patriots. Byron on the Jets. We're all on Jacksonville minus 9. I flip-flopped because I put the Texans first, and I only just swapped it to Jaguars about half an hour before Joe closed the list off. I don't feel good about it.
I think this is a one where I think I've flip-flopped a little bit as well, just because, not really about Houston, just how Jacksonville's not been amazing on offense, and are they going to get 9 more points than Houston?
Sounds like Stingley's going to be out for the Texans, which is a big positive for the Jags. Yeah, I really struggled with this. A lot of points, but...
Yeah, it is dropped to 8.5 in a minute, so obviously some people back in there.
let me hit you with this. I'm very worried about Trevor Lawrence versus bad teams. So since he's coming in the NFL, Trevor Lawrence versus bad teams, that's defined as a team under 500. Lawrence is 4-10 against the spread.
So you went Jaguars, yeah?
Yeah, I went Jaguars before I found this stat. I was like,
Didn't you just do this 30 minutes before the lock? When the hell are you getting your stats together?
I was just looking before because I was on the Texans before plus 9. I was like, I like 9. Anyway, and the other bit for me, the other bit, two other bits. Lawrence is 1-3 straight up, and also 1-3 against the spread against the Texans. Yeah. So, but yeah,
Lawrence. It feels like the first year there should kind of be a cut off of didn't exist. Any of his stat counting things because it was Urban fucking Meyer. Like I know, like everyone has negative, positives here, but that was a real. Not an NFL experience.
Meyer and his filthy fingers. Right. Other bit. Other bit. I like it as just a bet in this one, a prop one, and it's CJ Stroud to finally throw an interception. So he's 91 pass attempts across it, and that's the most in the rookie's first 2 games without throwing an interception. I think he's just due. CJ Stroud over half an interception, -120.
Nice. He's also got the most sacks in the NFL already, and that isn't a bet, but that's just a concern for CJ Stroud. He's got the third most pass attempts in the league and the first most sacks, and I really hope they get that line sorted a little more for him soon because I just worry that he's going to be bloodbath is kind of what I'm thinking. I just don't.
It's a recipe for a disaster. He had an injury last week, didn't he, and played a shoulder injury. I think what we've seen now, look, we're 3 weeks in, we've got Stroud has been banged up already. Andy Richardson's been banged up. Bryce Young's banged up. Protect these. If you're going to do this, you need to do it to protect these guys. Obviously, they're getting drafted that high. They do go to bad teams, of course, but you need to do a job. If you're going to do it, do the work to protect them. Because otherwise, you've got such a high investment for a draft pick in them, and you're just getting them killed. So, yeah. Anything else? Any other bets you got on? Jags, Texans?
Not for me.
No. Cool. Titans, Cleveland Browns. Me and Byron are on the Titans. Joe, you're on the Cleveland Browns. What makes you fancy the Cleveland Browns at -3.5?
You know what? It's not that clever. I just think the Browns are a 2-1 team and the Titans are 1-2. So I've just thought, that's as simple as I thought. That I think it's being in Cleveland is a big thing, and I know he's going to be on Watson now, but I think the backup running back did look promising. So I don't think much is going to change. I think it's not going to be high scoring, and I think even Cleveland still got points on the Steelers, even though the Steelers have got a great defense. I think they're still going to get points. Will the Titans be able to get many points against the Cleveland's defense? So, yeah.
I think if this was 2.5, I'd probably be with you. I really struggled with this one. I think I could see it being a field goal game. If it ends up being a 4-point somehow, it's one of the ones that really is a coin flip, I think, this week.
Yeah, I think over-under's 39.5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do expect it to be a low scoring one. I think that Titans defense is good.
Yeah.
I think the Browns. I really don't rate the Browns at all. I think they came with a lot of hype. I think they look terrible. They're obviously losing Chubb as well. I'm on the Titans for this reason and this reason alone. And it's Coach Vrabel is an underdog. 27-17-1 against the spread as an underdog. When the spread's 3 or more. So I've got your deeper stat for this one, Byron. When the spread's 3 points or more, he's 23-9-1. So I love that anyway. What makes me love this even more is Coach Stefanski at Cleveland as a favourite. Doesn't happen for Cleveland often, but as a favourite, he's 10-19, or Cleveland have been 10-19 while he's been head coach against the spread. So Cleveland don't cover as a favourite. Vrabel covers as an underdog. Put them together. Give me the Titans, and that'll be one I bet big on this week. I just back Coach Vrabel. He's covering it 3.5, no problem.
That's a bit more. That's a bit more clever why you've chosen that compared to mine.
I'm trying to give some credibility. Look, I missed a 67% here, Joe. I'm trying to give the people some reasoning behind. Just let them have a look through. Look through the door as to kind of how we get to be Mr. 67%. I'm not winning a bet now after I bragged about that.
I know. Talk about Mr. A&R, yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, true. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Don't worry. Falcons, Lions, we've talked about. Packers, Saints, we've talked about. Bills, Commanders, real interesting game. Bills are 6.5-point favourites on the road against Washington. Over under 43.5. We're all unanimous on the Bills. I think this is really. I don't think this game is too much about Buffalo. I think this game is about what are Washington?
Yeah.
They're 2-0 so far under with Sam Howell at quarterback. They've won 2 close games, haven't they? Against the Broncos and against the Cardinals. Is this, do we see Washington come back down to earth a little bit and the Bills steamroller them, or do we think they'll give the Buffalo Bills a game?
I think it'll be tighter in terms of Buffalo's offense versus Washington defense, but I just think, this is the biggest test Sam Howell's had in his career, and I think it's going to be. I could see it being similar to how the Raiders did against the Bills, where I can see Washington game 10 points, because they only got 16, 17 against the Cardinals, so I can't see him scoring enough points to keep up with Buffalo.
And Buffalo aren't a team who kind of we talked about the Niners and the Cowboys, get ahead and run it and run it and run it. It feels like it's Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just going to keep scoring until they stop, until the whistle goes, essentially. That's why I'm happy with them at -6.5.
Yeah. Cool, good stuff. We've talked about Chargers, Vikings. Give me the tie. Colts +7.5 against Baltimore. We're all on Baltimore. We're a lot. This is the bit we've got so many where we're all aligned, haven't we? This week, so the games in the preview we're not, but the rest of the games we are all aligned, which worries me. That worries me massively. Ravens, again, Colts. We don't know if Andy Richardson's going to play or if
I don't think he will.
Yeah, I think that was I had the Colts right up until the end to see what Richardson. But what I've seen is he's not practiced today, and so they were saying if you don't practice 2 days in a row without a concussion protocol, it's very unlikely you're going to pass it going forward. So I think without Richardson, because who's there back? Oh, it's Minshew, isn't it?
Minshew mania.
Because I think if Richardson played, I would have gone the Colts to keep it tight. But I don't think. I think it's but who knows?
The line's already moved out to 8, I guess, on the news that it's Minshew, it's likely to be Minshew, not Richardson. Kind of Trevor Lawrence warned Richardson after week 1, and unlucky scored it. He got the concussion on the touchdown, didn't he? Second touchdown that he ran in against the Texans last week. I expect the Ravens to roll on, like you were saying, Byron. I think they've had a pretty solid start to the season. There's a chance here that they've got the opportunity to essentially put themselves 3 games ahead of the Bengals.
Yeah.
And we saw kind of Lamar get it together last week. I fully expect him to continue with that. Cool, we're aligned. We're all on the Seahawks -6 against Carolina. Carolina are going to have Andy Dalton at.
I don't think that's a negative.
No, I was going to say
1 week.
That's made me feel like, Carolina could be a lot closer.
Me too. If that line moves because of it, if I get to 7.5, I think I'd probably rather go the Panthers. I think
6.5 at the minute.
Yeah, if he keeps moving because people don't like Dalton, but I think Dalton this week is a more NFL-ready quarterback than Bryce Young.
Yeah, of course he is, yeah.
But I think the Seahawks are a much better team than the Panthers, though. So.
They are, but defensively, the Seahawks haven't been great, have they?
No.
And I think kind of Dalton is in a better position to take advantage of that maybe than Bryce would have been this week. So, I don't know. I kind of wish I'd have gone the Panthers on this one now. I think Dalton can keep it
there
close.
He is, both sides of his mouth.
There you go. He's going to choose the Panthers for his other bets and stuff. So.
Same with Byron. If that gets to 6, if that gets to 7, feel like the Panthers can keep it within a touchdown. Chiefs, it's been Chiefs 12.5-point favorites against Chicago. We'll talk about. We've got the Cowboys top next. One of these big spreads. One of them's not going to cover.
This is the one I'm most dubious about, truthfully.
Yeah.
I think, especially with the Justin Fields comments this week of the coaching yesterday, and then him and Eberflus had a hug for the media today. I don't know if you've seen that. I just kind of think Fields might get a bit of a, because this is what happened last year. It got a way through the season. Maybe just let Fields do what he can do. Shocker. Maybe that's what you should do with your best players. And he was great middle to the second half of the season before he got injured right towards the end. And he was great. He was one of the best quarterbacks for fantasy, certainly. And not a proper pocket passer, but you just need him to do what he can do because you don't have anything else. Yeah. And I think if they do that to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have it in hand at 10 points, maybe the Bears might get it a little closer. This is the one I'm most dubious about on that big spread, certainly.
I think the only thing I've with the Chiefs is like they still need to prove that their offense is good this year. So I think even if they're by 10, I'm wanting to like, let's put some points on these to shut everyone up and be like, we're back, 40 burger. And I feel like I'm just not going to pick the Bears for the rest of the year just because it's an absolute garbage truck how it's going, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they shagged me for the first 2 weeks as well, so they're on my shit list. But I don't know, just something tells me they might just, the Chiefs might just fucking take the foot off the gas and they'll win by 11 or something. You know what I mean? Just somewhat rancid like that. Anyway, Cowboys going out west to play the Cardinals. Cowboys are 12-point favourites. Cardinals showed something last week. I know it was against the Giants, who were pretty rancid, but they did show a little something. Again, does this seem too big, or are we pretty confident that Dallas will cover the 12? We've not really seen too much offensively from Dallas. I think, is this the game where we see kind of maybe Dak and the offense explode?
I just think it's going to be like the first 2 weeks where, the defense is going to do all the work. They're going to get, again, 20 points up and just fly through it. I've got a bet for it. I do like the under because I don't think Dallas hasn't hit any overs yet, just because they're not letting the opposition score and they're not scoring over 40 points. So,
conceded a shutout and 10 points against the Jets last week.
Mm-hmm.
Very similarly, I'd be surprised if Dallas conceded more than 10 against the Cardinals. Trevon Diggs has just gone down for the season. That was some breaking news before we started recording. I'm sure you've heard it before. I'm not hearing it from me. If I'm the source of your NFL news, you're in trouble, I guess. But Trevon Diggs went down in practice with what has been apparently confirmed as a torn ACL, so he'll be out for the rest of the season. Don't think that'll impact Dallas in this game, but what impact does that have for that Cowboys secondary and defense for the rest of the season?
Hurts an awful lot. He's an incredible playmaker. He's only been getting better and better, I think, as well. There is part of that's why you bring in a veteran like Stephon Gilmore in the off season, so you've got that depth. But it definitely hurts. Like you never get better by losing your best defensive players. Obviously, does it knock them out of the? I mean, they've been the best defense in football in the first 2 weeks. I don't think there's any kind of question of that. Does it make them 6th best going forward, 5th, 6th best, and maybe that puts a bit more on Dak and the offense? Maybe. I don't think it should hurt their playoff chances, but maybe it'll hurt their chances of winning playoff games, plural. I don't think the impact will be felt this week, certainly, though, like you said.
Yeah, I think for my part, I think obviously getting Gilmore in, you've actually got some cover there. And he is a playmaker, but he's not really a shutdown corner. So I think...
Keep your Trevon Diggs slander to yourself.
He's just not a shutdown corner, is it? It's a fact. And he gave up big players a lot, even when he got all them interceptions. And I think the only saving grace is that because the front is just so good, you probably can plug some players in where they're not having to cover someone for so long because the rush is getting to the quarterback. So I think obviously it's a big hit, but I don't think it doesn't think, Super Bowl's done now. I feel like if someone like Parsons went down and you're like, Super Bowl's probably not there anymore. But
let's not wish for that.
Well, I'm not wishing for that. I'm just staying in fact, Paul.
Sounded like he was wishing for it, Byron.
Well, it's the same on 49ers if they lost one of their back end or even the linebackers. They probably got cover. It's not the driving force. He's certainly one of the best players on defense, but I don't think it affects their Super Bowl chances in terms of, they're not going to win the Super Bowl now because Trevon Diggs is out. But yeah, certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, I think do we say it makes sense? Is Deron Bland the next one to start, do we think, or is it Jordan Lewis?
I think it'll be Bland.
Yeah, Bland had a really good rookie season, didn't he? So
you can't get the Cowboys defense plus 340 anytime touchdown, even without Diggs. I just think Cardinals have looked pretty good through 2 weeks, but I think it might be a bit rabbit in the headlights with Josh Dobbs when, again, you see Mike Parsons coming out here. You don't want to see it. I don't want to sound too obvious, but it's a scary proposition. I don't think there hasn't been a better defensive player in football in the first 2 weeks. I don't think there's been a better defensive player in football since he joined the league. I know TJ Watt fans or Nick Bosa fans might come at me for it, but like, I don't think there has been. He's just kind of obscene. I think he's a favourite for the DPOY now, and I think this could be a real. The Cardinals have had their 2 fun weeks of being a competitive team. I think this could be much less fun. And actually, despite Trevon Diggs being out, the line's moved to 12.5. So the bookies clearly don't rate him too much.
I think there's a couple of
too many big plays.
And I think this might be a week where Dallas don't. I've got a couple of injuries. So I don't know if you've seen Zach Martin's questionable.
Yeah.
Tyler Bidash is questionable.
Brandon Cooks isn't guaranteed. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Jaron Curse questionable. So there's an actually maybe just take a week off. And if they do, then 12 might be a lot. But yeah, I fully expect the Dallas Cowboys to cover it. We're all on the Steelers. I love the Steelers are another bet that I love this week. Yeah. Steelers plus 2.5 against the Vegas Raiders. Still feels weird saying Las Vegas. Vegas Raiders. Yeah, and you know what? I know I'm supposed to watch the game. I'm probably going to skip this game because it's going to be awful. It is going to be awful. Can we just not, as a general rule, can we not put this Pittsburgh Steelers team on back-to-back weeks in prime time? There can actually be a rule?
I mean, we can't. I'll agree with you, but I don't think we have that power yet. We've got that fantasy working partnership, but I think we're a long way from the NFL.
Well, NFL will be a better place. We're all on the Eagles, 2-0 v 2-0. Eagles against the Bucs. We didn't want to thought that, I don't think. Eagles -5 going to Tampa. Baker Mayfield has looked good.
He has his moments.
But he was against the Vikings and the Bears. That's what I keep thinking. It's not like he's against probably a top 20 defense this year. So he's looked better, but this is the test. If he plays well against the Eagles defense, fair enough, it's a new Baker, but I've got a feeling it's going to be a disaster. I think it's going to be a few picks, a few scrambles, head scratching throws. It's I'm all in on the Eagles.
I seen a description of Baker Mayfield on Twitter on Sunday. It's I've never seen a slow of a running quarterback who thinks he can run faster than Baker Mayfield. He goes out on these runs and it's kind of like a little bit of a chubby Johnny Manziel, he looks like. And he obviously doesn't have it, but I won't knock him for his bravery because he'll throw himself into every tackle and every a yard he wants to gain, but it is a kind of a funny visual. And I think he's going to be running a lot, to your point. Jalen Carter is going to be licking his lips, I think, against that Bucs O-line.
Yeah. Jalen Carter seems to have had a real good start as well. The guy that was a defensive rookie of the year at 8-1. Was it 8-1? Yeah, I think it was 8-1 to start the season. Will Anderson was the overwhelming favourite, but we haven't seen too much of him. I think just Jalen Carter being on a great defensive front in Philly, he's harassing quarterbacks left, right, and centre. And then we split. We talked about Rams, Cincinnati already on the other Monday night game. So just to position where we are to go into the week, we are. Whoa, back up, Joe. I'm 13-17-2. Joe is in second place, 16-14-2, and Byron 17-13-2. We had those 2 pushes come last week. On to the FourFold challenge. After this, you'll hear. That picture's great, isn't it, Tanner? You'll hear our special guest picker for the week, Tanner from the Let's Talk Sports Network. He joins me to talk a little bit about his Kansas City Chiefs and explain his picks for the week. So you'll hear them coming up. So I won't talk too much about those because that'll spell the next segment, won't it? We haven't had this before. We haven't had the organisations have them in first so far. Favourites then, I'm on the Cowboys -12. We've talked about Byron. You are Broncos Dolphins -6.5. Joe, you're -5 on the Eagles. Is that the second time you took the Eagles? Do you take the Eagles week 1 as your favourite? Or was that me? I think that might have been me.
It was you.
Yeah, it was me, yeah. And then Tanner's with me on the Cowboys. Underdog, we've talked about it. I'm on the Titans, +3.5. Just love Vrabel as an underdog at the Browns. Chargers, For you, Byron, +1 against the Vikings and Steelers. Again, I love that one, Joe. At the Raiders, I'll get there eventually. And Tanner's on the Rams. Over, I'm on Falcons, Lions. I think that's going to be a pretty fun one. Byron, you're Panthers, Seahawks. Joe, you're with me, Falcons, Lions. And Tanner's with you, Byron. So we've only got 2 actual picks in there across the 4 of us. I'm on the under, Chiefs, Bears, Titans, Browns for you, Byron, Raiders, Steelers for you, Joe. So you're doubled up on that game. You've got the Steelers and the under 43, and Tanner's again with you, Byron, on Titans.
Browns. Picks.
Under 39.5.
Although I will say I take my hat off to him. Well, I won't give him it. He's clearly got a very fashionable hat.
I did it again. I actually thought I picked something else when I loaded this up. Then I thought it was the Packers Saints, and I had some facts for you, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to read these facts down the FourFold, and I was like, oh yeah, I went for the Steelers again.
Oh, so you had stats and didn't bring them up when we covered the game?
Yes, it was the last time the Saints allowed more than 20 points was in November 2022. So I was like, just going on the under then, because I don't think Derek Carr's going to be scoring many points as well. I think, what was the other one?
So you thought Derek Carr's not going to score many points?
Right. So can I just point out, right, that's obviously 10 months ago, but only 5 games ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still quite a lot of games, 20 points.
Many.
Yeah, it's not, and they've not scored 20 points this year. True. And they've only got the end zone. It's always in the end of the third quarter is when they score the first touchdown. So it's I thought, put them as I think I had them under to start with, and then I changed mine because I was like, Green Bay actually going to throw some bombs, and I thought. Do
you want to edit the podcast and put that stat in where it's relevant about an hour ago when we discussed the game?
Well, that's one of my best for the week. There you go.
And to be fair, the Saints might not have scored over 20 points, but they scored 20 points 4 days ago. 3 days ago.
Well, over 20 points, Well,
I think you said 20 for them, to be fair.
Sorry, over 20.
I'm being pedantic. My apologies.
Leave the stats to me. Right. So, Joe, point being on this, we've done the FourFold challenge. Joe is on fire. He's the point. Joe is 8-0. I sense your 4-0 streak's going to come to an end, Joe. But
wow, thanks, Bob.
What's this? Mr. 67% is jealous of 100%. I think it's fairly clear.
10-4-1.
Well, you got 5-3, which must be near that as well.
Yeah, 5-3, Mr. 60%. Yeah, that's probably not right, is it? No, 62. Anyway, So Joe, you're on a heater at the minute. 2 4-fold parlays that you've hit this week. 12.91. How confident are you this week going forward now? This
one I struggled with. I think last week. I think obviously with the first 2 weeks of betting, there's some weird ones, but the bettors have, especially with the over and under. I was hoping to get an over around the 42 mark, but I wasn't confident in any. I'm confident with my favourite and underdog. It's the over and under. I'm not quite sure.
Well, that over must be tough now as well, knowing Paul's back to it.
I know, that's the problem.
All right, don't be like that. Yeah. Interesting one. So, Byron, you're at 500 with the guests. So you're up against Tanner this week, and you probably can end up at whatever the guests are, I think, with your picks anyway. So
Tanner going 8-4. Congrats. And I'm just going to say now, I have backed mine just so that I don't back it again on Sunday, which is what I did last week.
Yes.
I lost 2 parlays, which was great.
So we've got yours is the longest in it, plus 12.91. Byron's yours is plus 12.28. Mine's plus 11.75, and Tanner's is also plus 12.28. Who'd have thought when 2 of the 4 picks are exactly the same?
Sus.
Okay, well Joe pulled the odds together. Thank you to Bet365 Canada for those odds. That's the next one we're working on. Working on a second partnership already. Cool. That's it from us. We're going to hand over to me and Tanner, where we'll talk about Tanner's picks in greater detail. But that's it from Joe and Byron. They'll be back along with me for our review episode on Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So enjoy your week 3. Here's me and Tanner talking through Tanner's 4-fold challenge.
Great picks, Tanner.
Welcome to our week 3 segment of our guest picker. Grateful to be joined this week by Tanner. Tanner, thanks ever so much for joining us here on Good Teams When Great Teams Cover. It's a pleasure to have you. Great, wanting you on for a while, so great to have you join us as our guest picker for week 3. How's it going?
It's good. Happy to be on. Appreciate you inviting me on here and sticking with me through the schedule. So glad I was able to make it on this week.
Hey, it's tough. I get it. You're a busy man. It's hard to pin down, but I guess first up, Tanner, what have you got going on at the minute? So where can our listeners find you? I know you're all across the Let's Talk Sports Network, but where can we find you? And what kind of shows are you most prevalent on at the minute?
Yeah, so you actually find me Sports Buffoons Wednesday nights with the Buffoons there. We just did the show last night. Really fun show. Talked Chiefs, talked about the NFL sloppiness, talked about the our easy money bets of the week as well. You can catch me on Let's Talk Sports as well, Monday, Thursday, Sunday on the Let's Talk Sports show. Also catch me on Wednesdays afternoons with the Let's Talk Sports, with the Let's Talk Bets show with Matt Larison and Scott Coe. And I feel like there's more out there. Hear Me Out. I've been on, I'm kind of on and off there during baseball season right now. We got some tournaments, so I've been off, but you'll catch me a little bit everywhere, kind of in the Let's Talk Sports world. We saw Dan's retirement post. He did ask me to take over the channel, so I am working on that side on top of doing the shows, on top of working the full-time job, on top of coaching men or 10 and under competitive baseball. So staying quite busy for myself.
I think that's an understatement. And yeah, of course, kind of. So we've done, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for Dan. Ultimately, I think when we started out, and I'm sure Tanner has been a great help to you over the months and years that you've known him as well. But I got to first came into contact with Dan maybe back in March, April. So I've not known him too long, but he's just been an unbelievable help in terms of
supportive guy. Supportive, yeah. always willing to help you out wherever you need it. You couldn't ask for anything better as, starting out podcasting or even just coming in and trying to grow your own kind of brand. He was for everybody and everyone. And, it's something that carries with me as we, continue his journey of the Let's Talk Sports Network.
Yeah, I think well said and well put, because this, LTS isn't going anywhere.
It's not.
Fans have to step away. It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get bigger and stronger. And we'll always remember, the work that Dan's put in to get it to that point.
The man Dan. So it'll never be forgotten. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. And we're eternally grateful for the work that Dan's done for us over the months as well. Tanner, you mentioned there as well, so we can catch you everywhere. In summary, you can catch Tanner everywhere. And please do go give Tanner a follow and go watch his content, because it's great stuff to watch. And Tanner, you mentioned obviously you, and a bit of a clue in the background, but you are a follower of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Heading into week 3, how are you feeling about the Chiefs? Obviously, the opening night loss against the Lions, coming out in a tight game against the Jaguars in week 2. How are you feeling about the Chiefs season so far?
I'm okay. I feel pretty good still. The defense for change is actually not the issue going in on this team right now. Usually it's a slow start, really good end that we do. And Spags got this defense rolling without Chris Jones. Held the Lions to 14 points. I guess 14 points because of the turnovers, right? So 14 points there on the defensive side. You held Jaguar. You held Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley and ETN and all those guys to 3 field goals. The defense is playing extremely well. Now you got Chris Jones back last week. We saw the real big effect of that. So, I mean, if that was a step up from what we saw week 1, it can only be good things. Now, if we can get that offensive side of things on the same page, reduce their turnovers, get things more in line. I think the adjustment from going from Bieniemy for a few years to back to Matt Nagy is kind of a slow deal going into play, kind of a slow start with it. But I feel there was better play calling last week than the first week also, right? Play calling is another big thing on this team for the offensive side that they're figuring out. They always like to try to get too cute at the wrong times. We saw a little better last week, luckily, but we got to clean up the turnovers. Injuries have also been a big deal. We have Nick Bolton, Willie Gay currently did not practice yesterday. Richie James seems to be out this week, possibly for a couple. He's a big vet that really helped improve this team, wide receiver ranks. And then Tony, of course, is hurt again. So, it's injuries have hurt, but the depth that we have, the guys that Veach and Reed have brought in through the draft, through free agency, are step up guys, right? Next man up. And we've seen it in the past. And these guys, I continue to see success, even if, let's say, Bolton, Willie Gay, or even Tony and James miss. We still got guys to be able to come up and be those kind of guys.
I think we've seen it, haven't we, with the Chiefs these last few years, about they just find a way of working things out. And I think probably, again, the key, Eric Bieniemy, I think, is the kind of that big change, and it might just take the Chiefs a few weeks just to work it out and just to kind of settle into a bit of rhythm and routine on offense. And of course, kind of Kelsey missing week 1's huge, back in last week, and obviously makes it.
Like you said, it might have been a pressure issue, right, with Kelsey missing week 1 that caused. Tony didn't play at all during the preseason. That was an issue there. We saw Sky Moore played 30 snaps, had 2-3 targets, no receptions. You can't do that if you're receiving ranks, but you got to think about this too. Mahomes doesn't have anybody currently on the roster that was there from when he was drafted. Last year we had Mecole was the last guy left, and he ended up going to the Jets this year instead of re-signing with the Chiefs. So we say new receiving squad, this is a new, you're barely a year in because you had Tony on the trade. So you got a new receiving squad in this still a fairly young receiving squad.
Yeah, even the great Patrick Mahomes needs time to build up a connection with those guys, right? You can't just plug anybody in. Feels like it at times, but you can't just kind of plug anyone in. And I think
you can put it where you want, but the guys don't catch it. It's a little harder to make those kind of plays,
Yeah, definitely a problem week 1 for sure. But yeah, I think we'll see the Chiefs settle. So while we're on the Chiefs, we are going to do, obviously, Tanner, you're going to take part in our FourFold challenge. 1 favorite, 1 underdog, 1 under, 1 over. But let's just quickly talk about the Chiefs line this week. So the Chiefs play the Bears, one of the Sunday afternoon games. It's 12. I've not seen if it's moved since I looked this afternoon, but it's 12.5. Do you think the Chiefs cover the 12.5, or is there enough there for the Bears?
I said it last night on the Buffoons. I don't think they cover. I think this offense continues. If Tony misses, if James is out, of course. So, but I mean, just the continuation of the receiving ranks trying to get adjusted and stuff. I don't see this offense exploding for a blowout. I want it to. I don't see exploding for like a 25, 30-point blowout by any means. I think the Bears sneak in, get lucky on a couple plays, have a touchdown. I think you get a couple field goals out of the Bears as well, just getting into that kind of field. And I think the Chiefs score 21, 24 points. So you're looking at 24-13 at best. I think our best games are coming up here as the offense adjusts, but 12.5 is a big number. And the way we've played the last 2 weeks on the offensive side, I don't think we cover.
Yeah, a lot been going on with the Bears this week. A lot. A lot. And that's probably an understatement. But 12.5 this early in the season just scares me, that number. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
I'm with you.
Let's get into your 4 picks for the week then. I was talking to you off camera there a second ago. We've got one guy in our ranks who's absolutely on fire. Joe is 4-0, 4-0, so 8-0 so far on these FourFold picks. You've got something to live up to. We had Bobby G come in, go 1-3 week 1. Scott Cope came in week 2, flipped that, went 3-1. So there's only one better than that, Tanner, to go 4-0. So
undefeated, right? And you got freaking Scott Cope out here being the bet man, up in New England area, and so you can't let him be the highest point. It's just not allowed.
Well, let's see if you can knock him off the guest perch then, Tanner. So hit me up with your favorite first. Who have you gone for as your favorite in this FourFold challenge?
I think my favorite I'm going to go with here will be the Cowboys at -12. I just said 12.5 Stu after the Chiefs and Bears, but the Cowboys defense is a different type of defense. The playmakers they got on the offensive side can explode, and all you gotta do is get Dobbs running. And I think once he gets uncomfortable, it's kind of game over for Arizona. So give me the Cowboys at -12 as they win by 3 touchdowns.
Cowboys -12 at the Arizona Cardinals. Interesting, because I know it was against Jets. Josh Dobbs looked okay last week against the Giants.
Looked okay, but you saw the collapse in the second half.
Yeah.
But now you're 2 weeks of tape going against the Cowboys defense that it's pretty monstrous right now. Like Zach Wilson didn't look good at all against the Bills defense. That Bills defense isn't bad, but that Cowboys defense is just a different monster. So I'm kind of definitely leaning towards that Cowboys cover.
We like that. I'm a big Cowboys fan, Tanner, so we like that pick for sure.
So it'll work, yeah.
We like that one. Play to the crowd. I love it. Cool, good stuff. Cowboys -12. Then who's your underdog for the week? Who have you gone for? Which underdog's going to back? Do you think?
I got it as my easy money bet of the week last night on the Sports Buffoons. The Rams at +2.5. You don't have Joe Burrow. The defense is still healthy for the Rams right now, and Puka is looking like Cooper Kupp on steroids. So, I'm in for the Rams at +2.5. I just think it's a steal of a line right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen. Is the leaning that Joe Burrow isn't going to play, or is going to play hurt?
No, he's not. He's not playing. They said he's probably going to be out a couple weeks, just because of the calf issue that he has right now. So it's going to be a couple weeks, for sure on this one.
Bengals, obviously they've gone to 0-2 the previous 2 years. Got to the Super Bowl, got to the AFC Championship game. This feels different than those years, though. What is it? Why do you think the Bengals have particularly struggled so far this year, Tanner?
I think they were going to lead their struggle anyways, but I think the confusion here is now we're entering week 3, and now Joe Burrow's hurt. Instead of sitting out week 1, week 2, and maybe starting during this week, this would have been the game to start for Joe Burrow. It's just the organization, the way they approach the offseason, the way they approach the beginning of the season. Again, I think they're fine. They could start 0-5 going into the, they have week 7 bye. So, you start 1-5 going into the bye. I still think they're fine. They'll still get a wild card spot. Because then Joe will be healthy. I honestly thought, like I said, I think the whole Joe Burrow injury is more to it than what people made it out to be just because he was playing. He shouldn't have played the first 2 games. He shouldn't have played. This should have been his starting game. Make sure the guy's 100% healthy when he gets in there. This is the time for you to start winning ball games instead of the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's interesting now, given if the steer is that Burrow isn't going to play Monday night. So when we cut these lines, and we've mentioned it before on the show, usually on a Wednesday night, so we get our picks in, things like that, before we record. Obviously, the opening line was 2.5. It's already gone to 3. I was fully expecting it to come to 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone the other way. But yeah, it's 2.5 for our competition. But yeah,
I expected to swap. I expected the Bengals to have to be plus 2.5 come Monday night.
So that's interesting that it's moving, but it might start moving down, or you'd expect to see it moving down if we're getting the word that
right.
Play.
That's
but Rams 2.5, I love the play as well. I love the play. I think the Rams have been a lot better than people were expecting to start the season. But you've got Stafford back, you've got Donald back, the wide receivers, and Nakua's breaking records, isn't it, after 2 weeks in terms of receptions. Tutu Atwell as well on the other side, also Matt Stafford's getting some good production out of him as well. You've got Cooper Kupp to come back in there. The Rams could be a shot for the playoffs in the NFC. But yeah,
they could.
Well, yeah. Started pretty well. Not too keen on McVay's decision to kick the field goal the other day, though, on Sunday. Not happy about that. When you're on
I got my spread covered, so, I'm good with it.
Yeah. Baddest field goal I've ever seen.
That could hurt me, Eddie. Go for it.
Cool. Give us your under then, Tanner. What game have you got to be a bit of a stinker and an under this week?
I was thinking of my under here. It's a tough one here, but I'm going to go Titans Browns at 39.5. Tennessee doesn't like to score the ball. The Browns are missing Chubb now. That Titans defense is really good. Don't care what anybody says about the Titans. The defense is still really good, still healthy as well. As long as that, defense doesn't lose pieces, we're good. 39.5. I think it's pretty appropriate. I'll take the under in that.
Yeah. Browns just suffered that horrible injury to Chubb on Monday night. But yeah, I don't know. The Browns have probably underwhelmed so far. I think I know they beat the Bengals, but Monday night against Pittsburgh, I mean, it was just a bad game, that Pittsburgh Cleveland game.
I think it was just one of those division matchup, right? It's always going to be tough. It's always going to be a close one there, and I think the Browns are still good. Even without Chubb. Now you got Kareem Hunt. Finally got him back. He knows the system. He knows how to play with the Browns. I'm not worried about it. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a full out plug in right with Kareem Hunt, but it's hella better than having Jerome Ford come in and be your main back all year long. So, when I'd say give Hunt a week, he'll be back in next week as the full-time guy, and you'll be cruising off to the races again. Still being in competition to win this division. So.
Cool, good stuff. Titans, Browns, under 39.5. And then to finish off your fourfold selections, Tanner, what's the over that you've gone for this week?
I was in debate on this one because there's a couple games here. We have the Jets, Patriots. I think they can put up some points there with Garrett Wilson. Mac Jones likes to score the ball as well. Another one was the Raiders, Steelers. Steelers seem to just want to throw it to Pickens and, really have a heavy pass game into it on that. So, and the Raiders do the same thing with Devontae and everybody else like that. But we're going to go the over as the over under of 42. We're going to take the over here of the Panthers and Seahawks. Panthers like to score garbage time touchdowns. And the Seahawks will put up some points here, as we've seen in 2 games now from them. So I think you're looking at a pretty good matchup, pretty good offensive matchup here. I'll take the over of 42 for this game. Yeah,
it does seem a bit low. I think there's some word that we might see Andy Dalton this week, and that Bryce Young's got an ankle injury. And I'm not sure that affects that line too much. I think Dalton's a pretty solid back.
I don't think so.
Probably one of the best backups in the league to fall on.
I mean, he put up points with New Orleans last year with Michael Thomas out. Chris Olave running around. If you can get what's the young guy there? Can't remember his name. Not Thielen, but the rookie they have there. Tillman. Is it Tillman? Not Tillman. Mingo. There you go. Mingo. I think Mingo kind of flies open this week for Carolina if Dalton's in. Really looking for the guy to be able to stretch the field. So if any Dalton's in, I'm definitely taking this over 42 in this one.
Yeah, nice. I like it as well. And the Seahawks have been a fun watch so far in their games.
They got weapons. They're using Lockett a lot more than I thought they would. I expected a lot more Jackson, but I mean, Lockett's been out there just killing people, just killing it. So, if they can continue to use Lockett correctly, I ain't worried about Metcalf, obviously. But I mean, if you have a couple speed guys with Lockett and Jackson Smith and Nick Jigba, I think you're fine.
Yeah. Cool. Should be a good one, a fun one to watch as well. So we've got for your card, your favourites, Cowboys -12, Rams +2.5, Titans, Browns under 39.5, and then over 42, Panthers, Seahawks. We'll see if you can get that elusive 4-0 for the guests, Tanner.
Okay. That's all I'm looking for. Let's just beat Scott Coe. Let's put him back down. I need to put him back down for a minute. So,
Good stuff. Well, Tanner, we appreciate you. Thanks ever so much for coming on Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover and being our guest picker for the week. And hopefully we'll get you on later in the season to talk some ball as well. And we can talk some more about the Chiefs.
I appreciate you, Paul. Thanks for letting me on. And we'll definitely be in touch.
Cool. Thanks, Tanner.